Hey guys, what's up? How are you guys doing? It's Richa, and in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about my personal experience with Alliance Francaise de Bombay. So, this thing has been on my mind since quite a lot of time now, and I honestly wanted to share my personal experience with you guys so that the future students or the language learners know how things are beforehand, and maybe it gives them some insights about the what things you can expect from AF and any center. I'm going to obviously share about my personal experience at AF Bombay. I'm from Mumbai. I know. I think most of you all know about it. Those who are new to my channel, welcome to my channel, and so let's get started. Now, before we start, sorry, I want to mention this is not a promotional video that I'm making to promote my personal services being in the same industry. Now, I am also a professor de français, so a French professor. So I train students for um, like from absolute beginner level, like A1 to B2 level. That's DELF as well as TEF Canada examinations. So it's just to give you a little background that this is not something that's going to be promotional, wherein I'm promoting my services. At the same time, I'm being very honest. I just want to share my personal experience with you guys. It's totally your choice whether um, you guys still want to go ahead with AF or not. It's totally your choice. I'm nowhere responsible for this. Um, Also, as far as experiences are concerned, it's very subjective. I'm going to share my experience, but you need not decide based on just this one testimonial or yeah, you call it a testimonial because I honestly, before I registered, whenever it comes to learning French language, I think AF has built that image. Like people look up to AF as the best institute to learn French. For sure, it is. I will not deny, but I will share some things that I experienced, and that is not something I had expected, and it came out as a very big shock to me, honestly. I'll also share certain things that I I saw around me, like the students, my batchmates, things they were facing, and all of that also to give you an idea and how it made me feel as a professor. Or you know I think this thing has just made me perceive my profession in a very different way. It's because I think when students invest their money and time in courses, I think as educators I realized how big responsibility that is to deliver, or I would rather say over deliver, if that's in my capacity. I mean, I'm really passionate about teaching, and I'll tell you, now I'll start with the background. Um, so, I had learned French in my school from my 8th standard. I was a state board student. So, I had 8th, 9th, 10th, 3 years of French as a subject. After that, I continued my French in my junior college. So, total 5 years of learning French language. Now, don't count it as 5 years, because what happens is 8, 9, 10th May, whatever I have learned, the same thing repeats from the scratch in your junior college. So technically, yes, it was 5 years of learning French, but there was nothing new that added on to whatever I had learned in my school, or there was hardly something that was added on. I really don't remember, but I remember even in my FYJC, like in my junior college 11th standard, we had to start from avoir, être, numbers, letters, all of that. Okay, so now I learned this immediately after my 12th, like I cleared my 12th board exams. I started teaching French in the same. French language classes where I had learned French, where I was a student. Now, in the meantime, I became passionate about teaching French. I was interested in teaching, but I did not know what to. And then French language was very interesting for me, but then I wanted to focus on my board exams and everything. So after I started teaching French in the same classes, I developed more interest towards the language, and you know, I decided to take up the certified exams and things like that. Of course, I had no long-term plans to continue teaching, but for that moment, I was enjoying, and I went to AF Bombay Center to inquire about the courses, the charges, everything. And um, so when you've already learned French, I was confident I can easily, I mean, yeah, pronunciations weren't that correct. Grammar, yes, I knew, but language is much more than grammar and vocabulary, right? So, but I was confident that I could, directly make up to B1 level. So I went there and I was like, I want to take admission for B1 level. And they asked me to give a placement test, and I did not clear the test. I think I've never come across any student who has cleared their placement test. So I was very confident because I had uh, gone through the curriculum, that they follow, like the book that they follow, Saison and Cosmopolite was introduced later, but Saison, yes. And I thought, I mean, those were the topics I had A1 level, A2 level. I had already learned a lot about it. So I was not interested in starting with A2 because obviously I had to invest 25K for that. And I felt I could go through B1 and appear for the exam. But now placement test me I did not clear. And I agree my pronunciation was not up to the mark. But I think I could directly, like, I could polish my pronunciations and all these skills in my B1 level. But then they did not allow me despite of what I wanted. Then so my journey started with AF with from B2 sorry A2 level, and um, honestly when I look back I feel uh, 80% of my course time was 70 to 80% of my course time was a waste of time for me because there were a lot of things that I already knew, and so I felt a little trapped. Okay, and I invested 25,000 for A2 level course, and yeah, I just did not. I did not feel it was worth the time and efforts, because those were the things I already learned. So I used to just be in the class like this, interact, talk, and do things. Now I'll tell you in A2 level, like my batchmates, those who were absolute beginners. For me, it went really smooth and effortless. But those students who were completely new to the language, I saw them struggling really bad. Okay, I'm um, not saying this again, like I mentioned in the beginning. It's not to criticize the institute, but it is to give a clear picture of what I saw, and I assure you to provide you with uh, authentic content. It's nothing that I'm making up, or it's nothing that I'm just adding on to just create this video and give you. I'm not. I'm also a professor, so I will not misguide you because even I have been a student. I was in your position, so I believe in honesty and authenticity. So I am clearly telling you that my pronunciation was not up to the mark, but it was doable. I mean, I could polish that in B1 level. Okay. Now, coming back to A2 level, I really saw some students, nahi, some nahi, a lot of students, beginners, struggling, okay, to understand the language, to cope up with things. Because the areas where students need a lot of support and explanation, uh, that was not done, okay. And I mean, yes, the USP that AF has is 2 hours only French, nothing is translated, even teachers are talking to you in French. But I mean, it's like a student coming to learn French to me, and मैं मतलब I just keep throwing French on that child's or the student's face, you know. It is like that. I mean, the student is there to learn, and when you're even explaining the things in French, ठीक है, I understand those damsharas and expressions and all of that helps the student to understand, but the student is not understanding 100%. Forget about 100. I doubt if that student is even understanding 50% of the things being taught in the class like this. I mean, you have to come down to the level of the student in order to explain the student what it is and how to go about things, how to navigate through the language learning journey. Now, that is something that was the first point I noticed. And of course, it's a USP that 2 hours you're going to speak only French, and you know, throughout the day, you don't have a chance to speak French, and 2 hours of only French, which sounds very attractive, of course. Even I was in the same position, and I thought, okay, maybe this is the way you learn things. But no, man, no. I mean, if there are some rules I'm teaching, if there is something, now imagine I would be talking all of this in another alien language to you. Are you going to even understand? Of course, I mean, I did not understand this. I don't support this concept, this way of teaching, to be very honest. Because if a student is coming with zero knowledge in French, this is not how it's going to work. Secondly, um, so that is what my A2 journey was like. I mean, I saw a lot of students struggling, and since I was already a teacher, uh, and the entire class also knew about it, but you know, a lot of students approached me for, you know, private classes also, or you know, how they should, like, my opinion, suggestions about how they should go about it being a teacher. Like, being a teacher, they would ask me how they should go about it, should they even like register for A2 higher or take a break, you know, all of that. So I realized like majority of the students were like this. Second thing I'll tell you, um, there are activities that these people do, like, you know. So um, they have a system of following, you know, a system that they follow when it comes to teaching. um, but I think when it comes to grammar, it's just highlighted. I mean, they're just going to show you the outer picture of what it is, because French grammar has a lot of exceptions, a lot of rules, a lot of small rules in the topic, and they just expect you to read it online and figure out on your own. So of course they teach, I'm not denying, but like I said, it's just the outline. It's not the entire picture that they will show you. So they expect you to self study. But as a student, when you don't know and you're there to learn, I think it depends upon the professor how to make things work, right? To show them things and all of that. Another thing is there are activities. So every class they have some group activities or something like that, you know, which they make students do. Sometimes they are useful, sometimes they are totally waste of time. I'll tell you why. Because at times there are group activities wherein the teachers make group of 3 students, 4 students, and they give you a topic, and they just tell you to discuss the topic amongst yourself. I mean, it's just waste of time. The entire class is big chaos. You know, everybody's talking, and you will hardly see people talk in French. At times they even don't bother to discuss the topics. Of course, that's not the institute's problem, but I think when an activity is given, when there's no participation from the teacher's end, it's a waste of time. I mean, what's the point if the student cannot be corrected? How does a student know whether what he's talking is right or not? So sometimes I'm saying, I repeat, it's useful. Sometimes I found it waste of time. Then moving on to B1, immediately I registered for B1. Okay. Um, B1 journey was good, to be very honest. Overall, it was good. I had some and another thing is, I wanted to know who are the teachers who are going to take the batch I was planning to take for B1, and AF doesn't share that. Okay, so I did not know, I did not understand why, and I'll tell you, AF staff, the receptionists especially, are very rude. Okay, the way they communicate with you, it's as if I don't know, I don't want to be that blunt, but they are very rude. Okay, I did not know that AF is not supposed to, I mean, students are not supposed to ask who is the professor taking the class. But as a student, I mean, uh, I wanted to know, and I happened to ask them, and I was given a very rude answer, and which like made me furious, obviously. But then I wanted to appear for DELF exams, and I felt that was the only way through, because um, I did not know how reliable private tutors would be. Um, so I went ahead anyways, and I registered for B1. Uh, so B1 was 50-50. I mean, it was good in a way, because there was one professor who actually trained us for proper DELF exams, like the mock tests and everything. So, thanks to her, I mean, towards the end of my B1 classes, I registered for DELF B1 directly. I did not appear for A levels DELF exam. I directly appeared for B1, and I cleared it with a very good score. I think 75 or 78 on 100, which is a very good score. So I cleared that exam, and then I'll tell you, in B1, uh, I had, again, the experience was the same. Like, there were times, most of the times, when there were these group discussions going on, and there was, I mean, of course, when we want to translate some things, we ask the teacher and all of that. But I did not like that part of the course. And so B1, yeah, I was happy that I was trained for DELF. Okay. So, and I'll tell you now what happened in B1. So there were a few classes wherein I had one replacement teacher. Okay. Now, this teacher, the very first class she came in our class, to take a lecture, I was completely, how do I explain? Like, I was completely blown away by her way of teaching. She was somebody who would never open the book, I think, because at least she did that in the first class. And I remember she made us write a formal letter. And individual, I mean, she did take those efforts to correct us, and to tell us, like, instead of this you just have to write this is not how you do things, and this is not how you do it. I think that is something that's very rare, and that was the first time I experienced something like that. And I really wanted her as my teacher in maybe B1 or B1 higher, or even B2 for that matter. I'll tell you, just because I had her in the class, she wouldn't open the book, like I said. She would come with a topic, there would only be discussion in the class. Like, and through that discussion, she would give us a lot of vocabulary, and there were a lot of things, whether it is to talk about a film that you recently watched, or she would give some topic and she would tell you to talk on that and things like that. And she ensured the entire class is actively speaking and participating in the conversation. So that is something that just blew my mind. And I wanted to stop at B1 because I was not happy with the services and by the way they were teaching actually. So I wanted to stop, but then with the hope that just one hope that what if I get this teacher in B2, you know. Um, with that hope, I registered for B2, but I did not get her. And I'll tell you, B2 was a big disaster. Now I'll tell you one thing. Um, I have been a very regular student. So not that I've missed a lot of classes and then I'm saying all of this. If that is the case, it's my fault. I agree. But I've been very regular and there was no problem as such from my end, I feel. But I did not get that teacher and B2 was a disaster. It was a waste of money, time, everything. I will not deny. It was, I mean, learning a language shouldn't just be bookish, right? But irrespective of that chapter in the book being relevant to you or not, not just you, even from the DELF perspective or even from the language learning perspective, you know, they will still do it. And I find that a waste of time. So I feel instead of this thing, they can introduce maybe something else or they can initiate a conversation in the class or do so many things wherein or at least conduct the mock test, right? But no, that was never the case. I mean, I will not deny once twice, like very few classes, B2 speaking topic was discussed, like, and that too it was just the format, like this you have to speak, like introduce the topic, annoncer le plan, annoncer la problématique, and then you start pros cons and conclusion and idée principale, idée secondaire, exemple, blah blah blah. Okay, so it was just this, and then they gave us a topic and they told us to speak on that. Again, we were I think 30-35 students in a batch. But I tell you, despite of being a regular student, despite of attending all the classes for 6 months, towards the end of 6 months, I was completely lost and blank as to what do I do in my speaking and what is what is what can I expect in the speaking round in my DELF exam. I was clueless. So that made me realize that um, I think B2 is a level where, and I'll tell you very honestly, there were classes wherein teachers used to come with guides in their hands and they would play some audios and they would start writing the complete answers on the board and all of that. And I really did not understand this because I also told this teacher once, and this happened with a French native teacher, native speaker. Okay, so that came as another shock to me, and I told her, I mean, ma'am, guide even we can buy. I'm sure we'll find the answers. But could you teach us how do we navigate through the listening exercise in the DELF exam? Because at B2 level, there's one audio which is played twice, and the second one is played only once. And the level of the language is very high. Also, the audios are very long. So I told her, ma'am, could you please help us find how do we understand where is the answer to the questions and how do we understand, how do we take notes when the listening exercise is going on? Um, can you help us with all of those things? You understand what I'm trying to say? So then I'm like, we don't need the answers from the for the questions. We are rather more interested in learning how to answer the questions. I mean, how do we understand the text globally and everything? And why is this not the answer for this question? And why this particular thing is the answer? Whereas both the arguments are close. So, there are a lot of things that I did not like this, for example. And I mean, we don't want the school way of teaching, right? Like just writing the answers on the board and things like that. Oh God, it was a disaster. Okay, and fortunately, at the end of my B2 course, COVID hit. So my course at least completed. And then I couldn't register for DELF exam, obviously, because of lockdowns and all of that. And then I think the only reason I've cleared my B2 exam is of the um, because of the research, because of internet, because of YouTube, because of whatever materials I could find online, and I incorporated that in my learning. And I treated myself as another student, and I started teaching myself things uh, that way. I mean, with that perspective in my mind, as if I'm another student and I'm teaching that student things. I literally started writing a lot of things. I'll tell you how I went through the speaking thing. I used a self talk method. Okay. Now, what is a self talk method? It is a crazy exercise that I used to do. I started doing. I started picking up topics and I started talking to myself out loud. So I will not deny. I mean, that this exercise was very funny because my siblings would make fun of me because I would talk to myself like a mad person. Like, imagine I'm just in the kitchen cooking and I'm just talking, I'm just talking on and on and on something in French, and these guys are not even understanding. And I'll explain you one incident that happened. So, and this thing, trust me, guys, like once you start doing this, this thing will like it entered my brain to such a level that every day I would, think of, okay, this situation, how do I talk, how do I explain it in French, how do I put my thoughts in French, like I'm thinking all of this. If I had an argument with my mother or my siblings, how do I speak that in French, you know? So I how do I express my anger in French or my thoughts in French, everything. So I started doing this. Now, this thing, the more you do it, the more you want to do it. I don't know if that sounds philosophical, but that's how it happened. And then, like, I would go literally 30 minutes, 45 minutes non-stop. I would talk to myself about things. And when I used to talk, I used to realize, okay, this is a mistake I made. How do I use this? Is this correct? I used to use word reference for this. And that's how I've improved in my speaking. Okay. Now, after all of this self study that I've done, all of the hard work I've put in, um, thanks to this and internet also, like whatever I could find online, I started writing those things. Production écrite, oral. I mean, what is an expose? I was blank. I mean, I did not still have a clear idea of how do I, you know, put that in the sequence, or in the how do I structure my expose basically. How much do I talk on one thing, how much do I talk on another thing, how do I move on from one thing to another, how do I move on to conclusion now, how do I conclude, all of those things. I did not know. I learned all of this online. I started making my own notes, then I started picking up topics, preparing on those topics, presenting my monologue as if there's somebody sitting in front of me. I started recording that. I started listening to it again. And that's how I realized, okay, this is what I spoke wrong. This is the tense I used was incorrect in the situation. This is how I can improve. So I did all of this, and that's when um, I registered for DELF exam, not knowing whether I would clear or not, DELF B2, and I cleared again with the same score, like 77 on 100, which is a very good score for B2 level at least. So, this is how my experience has been. I think there are very few teachers who are genuinely passionate about teaching and who will go out of their way to help the students understand and improve. I have seen such super passionate teachers, but I think there are AF constraints also. Okay. Um, so I think, but there are very few teachers like this who will, and I think your interest in the language highly depends on your professor. Okay. I mean, your experience initially will either inspire you to go ahead in the language learning journey, or it is just going to break you down, like it's going to break your confidence. So, to sum this up, if you see 6 months B2, 6 months B1, 1 year, plus 3 months of A2. So, I've spent 15 months with AF, and to be very honest, um, the only thing I appreciate is my B1 experience, because this professor of mine had actually literally just like the way DELF exam is conducted, like she'll call individual student, listen to the student, like the monologue, she'll take notes, she'll explain this was a wrong, this was incorrect in your speech, this is how you spoke, you have to add this, you have to add that. I mean, those were the efforts she took. A2 also this thing had happened. Yeah, A2 also this thing had happened, but there were a lot of things. I think grammar plays a very important role in learning a language, because that's how you learn how to frame sentences, right? So when this thing itself is not in depth explained, you cannot make sentences correctly, because there are so many rules that go into any topic, right? So and as a student, until and unless the teacher tells you, you will not know that thing exists, which is why I feel a lot of students are lost. And to be very honest, I had, in my B2 level, I had a batchmate. Now I don't know what is the personal story, but I've seen students who are repeating their courses. The same level was repeated twice. So you understand the amount of investment it takes, and still the student is underconfident about speaking. Obviously, it has a lot to do with the way you are as a person, your personality, and how participative you are in the class. But I'll tell you, most of the teachers will have those handful of students in the class who are giving all the answers, and they are very happy with it, to be very blunt. Okay. They will not create that atmosphere wherein the students feel comfortable, or I don't think I'm putting this thing across correctly, but I mean, uh, it's like, they let those same students speak in every situation. I like it when, there are very few teachers who do this. They'll make other students speak, and that is when the other students have opportunity to speak. Like when there's this one scholar in the class who's giving all the answers before even anybody else is, um, even attempting. It's not a good thing, right? So there were pros and cons, of course. They organize, movie sessions. They show you a lot of other things, lot of other activities outside your book also. But like they expose you to French music, French movies, French culture. um, there are a lot of things actually which I appreciate about the institute. But if I see, for me, feedback matters a lot, and feedback not from uh, not from the director of AF, but I mean, if I put myself in, the teacher's place, for me, feedback not from the AF director, but from my students matter more to me. So if I see my students struggling somewhere with something, I would definitely want to meet them where they are struggling and help them out with their problems. So I cannot be someone like, I don't care. I mean, I've done my job. You see what I mean? So for me, um, feedback from my students matter more than uh, the director or anybody you know who's uh, who's at the higher position. So yeah, this is what it is. uh, I don't think I've missed out on anything. um yeah, I don't think I've missed out on anything. Yeah. So it is very subjective. It depends, on the teacher that you would get. But there are very few teachers who are genuinely passionate, and you will never know who's going to teach you unless you spend some time with the teacher, right? So, and the teachers change, like lower, like B1.1 there will be another teacher, like two teachers. B1.2 there will be another teacher. So it is like this. So, and irrespective, I mean, I have seen one batch that was not happy. The entire batch was not happy with one professor. They did write an email to the director of the entire city. Um, I mean, the director of AF Bombay, asking them or requesting them something, but they don't care. They really don't care. They did not do anything about it. And these students were just struggling. And I think this teacher was new. I mean, she was new to teaching field, I feel, as far as what I've heard and what I remember. So that's how it is. Like, they will not care. They will, yeah, they just don't care. So, as an institute, I mean, obviously, students have various reasons and a lot of things, and it's impossible to customize your things and services as per each one's individual needs and everything. I understand that, but if I mean, on a personal level, I feel if my students are struggling and if they still don't have the proficiency in the language that they are supposed to have, uh, I think I did not perform well, or I need to work more on those aspects of teaching, or I need to improvise my way of teaching and things like that. So that's about it. I don't think I have anything more to add. Um, just before I wrap up, I want to tell you that this is my personal experience, and nothing fabricated again. This video is also uh, um not to criticize AF, but or any other way, but it's to genuinely give my opinion. It's genuinely to put my thoughts across, so that you guys have a clear picture of what it is. So to sum everything up that I spoke, as a student at AF, it is 70% of self study and 30% of, or let me put it like this, it's 60% of self study and 40% of class study. So you have to be prepared. I mean, that should be in your mind. I mean, you cannot totally depend on AF. And plus, even as a beginner, even at A1 level, when you join AF, they expect you to have some basics knowledge, you know. So that is how it is. So there's more of self study at AF, and definitely you will, if you're participative, you will improve in your speaking, in your listening, on like in different areas, especially speaking and listening and all of that, for sure. So yeah, that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.